All right, this is the coding teacher, and I'm here to teach you how to code. I'm back at it with the 5-minute Leetcode series, where I explain a Leetcode in 5 minutes and then implement it in however long it takes. So this one has a very low acceptance rate. Let's go into it, check it out. So let's see. Convert a string to an integer. Discards as many white space characters. So let's take some notes here as we go. Trim. This as many non-white space characters until the first non-white space character is found. Then, starting from this character, takes an optional initial plus or minus sign, followed by as many numerical digits as possible, and interprets them as a numerical value. So 0 through 9. Yeah. Let's say as many numerical digits as possible. And the string can contain additional characters after those that form the integral number, which are ignored and have no effect on the behavior of this function. If the first sequence of non-white space characters in the string is not a valid integral number, or if no such sequence exists because either string is empty or it contains only white space characters, no conversion is performed. If no valid conversion is performed, a 0 value should be returned. Only the space character is considered a white space character. Assume we are dealing with an environment which could only store integers within the 32-bit signed integer range. If the numerical value is out of the range of representable values, you need to return this. Okay. Truncate to int max value. Okay. And trim everything after the number. Okay, so these are the basic steps that we're going to take. Okay, and this actually looks like a code cleanliness exercise. So it's not, there's nothing to it. There's no big difficulty to it. The difficulty is in like writing all this stuff cleanly. You don't want to have a bunch of nested if statements. You want to structure this in a way that the code is going to be easy to follow and understand, and it's going to have low cyclomatic complexity. That's what they're probably going to be evaluating you on if you go to a problem like this one. So let's go ahead and start implementing. This actually doesn't require much of an explanation. We're just gonna have to, I'm gonna explain as I go. The hard part is gonna be this, right? For which we're gonna use a regular expression. And it looks like after we've trimmed it, right? After we've trimmed it, most languages have a trim function that trims white space in the beginning and in the end. So after we've trimmed it, we're gonna test against a regular expression that's gonna be like this. We use the hat character, and regular expressions are pretty important concept. They're not included in my list of basic prerequisite concepts to get into a fan company because I work with people who don't really know them that well, so they therefore are not necessary to get into a fan company. But I think they're super useful, and once you have the job, I actually make everybody learn regular expressions, and I don't teach them how to do things without them because they have to they're just way too useful. So let's see here. The hat means the start of the string, right? So then we're gonna have either a plus or minus, right? That's going to be reoccurring either 0 or 1 times. And then we have 0 through 9 plus, okay? So actually, truncate to int max value. So let me expand on that, right? So here we want to do a couple of things. So what is integer max value, by the way? Let's go ahead and compute that real quick. Math.pow to 32 or 31 rather. And let's get the length of that. 10. Yeah, so we can, the way that I would do this, right, is store it in a long, like if you're using a program, like store it in a long or in a double, a data type that has longer range than integers, right? But beforehand, check if the length is greater than 10, right? So truncate to max value is going to have 2 steps. check if length is greater than 10. If so, truncate to max, to known max. Okay, and if the length is not greater than 10, right? Just store it in a store, because like the length, you could have a number that's greater than 10 and it's larger than this, right? So you could have one that starts with a 9, for example, and is 10 in length. That's also going to be out of bounds. So if you check that the number is not greater than 10, all you need to do now is store it in long or double, right? And then test it numerically against int max or int min. Okay, so that's gonna be like my pseudocode, my basic pseudocode algorithm. Another thing that I'm gonna be doing here is actually I'm gonna extract sign, and I'm gonna convert it into either a +1, it is gonna be called a multiplier factor, or a -1. And then once I extract the sign and I decide what my multiplier is, and then here at the end, I know what my value is gonna be. I can multiply by the multiplier, or I may need to be doing that. No, actually I need to do it before this step. So before this step, I need to multiply by the multiplier. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And it's 6.5 minutes for the explanation. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure that we cover all the pseudocode that we're gonna need to cover. Okay, so let's see. Now we're gonna go ahead and start with the implementation. First, non-white space sequence equal, and I'm gonna grab this guy, trim it, right, and then split it by space, and then grab the 0th element, right? So that's gonna be my first non-white listed non-white space sequence. And let me see how the record is going. Okay, cool. Then now the regular expression comes in to see if it's correctly formatted. I gotta see if it matches this guy. Oh, I forgot the final slash here. So every language has regular expressions, and in this case I'm using JavaScript, so I'm gonna say const is correctly formatted equals first non-white space sequence match this guy right here, and looks like do I have some kind of syntax error? Because that code coloring doesn't look right to me, but whatever, we'll try it, and I might need quotes around it or something. So then this in JavaScript, when you use the match, if there is no match to this pattern, then it's going to return null, right? So if not, and if there is a match, it's going to return an array with a bunch of information about the matches, where the first element is going to be the actual matching string. If not is correctly formatted, return 0. So if no conversion was performed, we're gonna return a 0. And let me see if okay, if no conversion was performed, return 0. And then let's get the sign now. So const sign multiplier is equal. So there's two cases here, or like I guess there's two possibilities. It's either plus or minus. The minus is very explicit, means that the first character in, actually let's extract this match. Let's say const, or maybe we reassign it later, that numeric value equals is correctly formatted 0. I realize that's a little bit of a misnomer, but the match method is doing kind of two different things, so we're gonna live with that. So this is the actual numeric value, right? And then the sign multiplier, if the first character of this guy is a minus, the sign multiplier is gonna be -1. If it's not a minus, because it's either a plus or it's a number, we already know that it can't be anything else because it matched this string. So we already know that it's either a plus, a minus, or a number, the first character. So if it's a minus, so numeric value bracket 0 equals to a minus sign, then the multiplier is -1, otherwise the multiplier is +1. Okay, so that's my sign multiplier. And then now we're going to go ahead and separate the numeric value from its sign. Okay, because yeah, we're going to separate the numeric value from its sign. Const, or no, actually, numeric value equals, let's see, numeric value 0. Maybe I could use sign multiplier. No. Actually, yeah. So basically, I'm checking to see, because if there's an explicit plus in there, I don't want it to mess me up with the integer conversion or whatever. So what I'm doing is checking for that right now. So I'm gonna try to get this numeric value at 0, right? And I'm gonna cast it to number, right? And if that is a plus or a minus, this is gonna give me an AND. So then I'm gonna check if is nan. If that is a nan, if is nan, that means that there was a plus or a minus. So then my numeric value is equal to numeric value dot slice starting at 1, otherwise equal to numeric value. Okay, so I'm assigning numeric value depending on whether the first character is a sign, like a plus or a minus sign. All right, now that I have that, let's say numeric value equals numeric value times sign multiplier, and now I have like my real negative number that I want to have. Or do I should I? Well, numeric value at this point is kind of a string. So if I do this, and this work, if I do this and this works, it would be by accident because of JavaScript being smart and coercing values. So let me not do this right now. Let's say if let's discard that case with the length of 10 that I said before, right? So if numeric value dot length is greater than 10, then we have to, depending on the sign, return one of these, right? So if return sign multiplier is equal to -1, then I'm going to return math.pow 2, so negative math.pow 2 to the 31. Otherwise, if it was positive, I'm going to return this -1, right? So now I can go ahead and cast this guy to a numeric type, a numeric type greater than int. Numeric value equals number numeric value times sign multiplier. Okay, so now I have this as a, in this case, number is kind of like a double in JavaScript, so it's 64-bit data type. So I have it, and data types and their sizes, something that you should know. I kind of like take it for granted, but if you don't know data types and their bit sizes, you should. That's definitely one of the basics, topics that are covered that you should know coming into a FANG company interview. So now we have this guy, and now we need to basically just truncate it, right? So we're just gonna say if let's say, actually declare these int max and these. JavaScript probably has a way to get this out of the box, but I don't know it off the top of my head. And I want this to work in a job interview. You could probably just wave your hand over this and not declare these two variables and just tell your interviewer, hey, look, I assume that this language has a way to get the integer max value, and I'm just naming it this, but just bear with me. So if it's 1, so it would be int min, otherwise int max. All right, so, and I did that so that I didn't have to, the runtime wouldn't suffer from calculating that power again in here. So if numeric value is greater than int max, return int max. If numeric value is less than int min, return int min. And finally, return numeric value. All right, so let's see how that works. Let's close this guy out. We got a problem here. Oh, got a little bit of a parentheses issue here. Cool. Let's test this guy now. And that's good too. Let's test this guy now as well. And ooh, we got a problem right here. Test case. Ah, crap. That was the problem. It's a little bit unforgiving. And then run code. That's good too. Let's try something really large. That should be covered. Alright, cool. Yeah, so this is I wouldn't call it the most elegant implementation, but it's also really easy to understand. There's probably some trickery that you can do that would allow you to implement this in a much shorter way, but typically they're not looking for trickery in fan companies. They're looking for legible code over trickery, and as long as you have code that's like this. Okay, here we go. What do we have here? So we have that length. So this thing is costing something that we didn't think about before, where we're doing the length, right? If this guy, we could just remove this and hope that it didn't overflow the double value that we want. They would have to have a really low. So it's possible. Let's see. Let's try removing this and see if we're just just casting it directly to the long will work. That worked, but that's just because they don't have a test case that would break this. I think that with a large enough test case, and so a large enough test case that would overflow the actual double data type, you should be able to break this. I don't know if this particular one is gonna break it, but yeah. So I think you should be able to break this with a long enough, long enough input that could only be captured using a data type like big integer, like a class like a big integer in Java. But not 100% sure. This worked either way, and we just removed that step of the complication. And so we just remove this, and yeah, so that's it for this Leetcode. It was accepted. It didn't have a solution, so I hope that was informative, and I'll see you guys next time.